Welcome to Matt's Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier, and thank you kindly for stopping by. I still am of the view that the dollar is going a lot higher, as I was in August when I said if things tip big, the dollar might soar. And if I may, I'll put up that very famous work by Andy Warhol called 200 $1 bills. Home thoughts turn to Mario Vargas Llosa. Memory is a snare, pure and simple. It alters, it subtly rearranges the past to fit the present. And then from the cave to the skyscraper, from the club to weapons of mass destruction, from the tautological life of the tribe to the era of globalization, the fictions of literature have multiplied human experiences, preventing us from succumbing to lethargy, self-absorption, and resignation. Nothing has sown so much disquiet, so disturbed our imagination and our desires as the life of lies we add. Thanks to literature, to the one we have, so we can be protagonists in the great adventures, the great passions real life will never give us. The lies of literature become truth through us, the readers transformed, infected with longings, and through the fault of fiction permanently questioning a mediocre reality. Sorcery when literature offers us the hope of having what we do not have, being what we are not, acceding to that impossible existence where, like pagan gods, we feel mortal and eternal at the same time, that introduces into our spirits nonconformity and rebellion, which are behind all the heroic deeds that have contributed to the reduction of violence in human relationships, reducing violence, not ending it, because ours will always be, fortunately, an unfinished story. That is why we have to continue dreaming, reading, and writing, the most effective way we have found to alleviate our mortal condition, to defeat the corrosion of time, and to transform the impossible into possibility. I like this image of an African elephant, 1983, from the Endangered Species series, Andy Warhol Foundation of the Visual Arts. And then on that note, I'll put up a photograph of the elephants I saw on the 1st of September 2013 in the Amboseli. Iran nuclear talks extended 7 months after failing to meet deadline. It is true that we could not reach an agreement, but we can still say that big steps have been taken. That was Hassan Rouhani. The US Secretary of State John Kerry gave a more guarded assessment, saying real and substantial progress had been made, but adding that some significant points of disagreement remained. These talks are not going to get easier just because we extend them. They're tough. They've been tough, and they're going to stay tough, he told reporters in Vienna. Brinkmanship is extremely expensive for Tehran. German Foreign Minister Frank-Walter Steinmeier, the Foreign Minister from China, Wang Yi, Catherine Ashton, Laurent Fabius, Philip Hammond, John Kerry, Sergei Lavrov all met on Monday and were photographed by the EPA. The Defense Secretary, Chuck Hagel, has been fired. Some experts on the administration say his sacking was less to do with policy, however, than his personality, saying he was known to have a crappy relationship with Susan Rice. I'll put up an image of President Obama speaking with his National Security Advisor Susan Rice aboard Air Force One. I'll put up a photograph of Chuck Hagel and John Kerry. Tension between Hagel and the White House aides got so bad, the defense official said, that Hagel would often phone Obama after the meetings to make sure his voice was heard. Clearly, we all awoke to events in Ferguson. Put up an image I found, it seems to be contained for now. Of course, here we have another protest about insecurity as well. Moving on to the currency markets, the euro back above 124, 124.28, dollar index 88.15, Japanese yen below 118 at 117.96, Swissy 0.9680, pound 156.90, Aussie 0.8599, India rupee 61.905, South Korean won 1110.20, the Rial 254.57, Egyptian pound 714.86, and the Rand back above 11 at 1102.98. Dollar index, I'll put up a 3-month chart. I remain very bullish about the dollar. Euro dollar, I think there is a chance of a trade below 1 in 2015. Gold back just marginally below 1200 at 1197.60. I'm looking for less than 1,000 in 2015. In my piece about Nigeria this weekend, and of course you can't not look at oil if you're looking at Nigeria, I went back to a quote I found on Bloomberg where somebody said, if OPEC does nothing, I think we're seeing this market getting really trashed. Another $10 from where it is, and I'll put up a 6-month chart of crude oil, and I think he's right on the money. Coming to Africa, the AU has tweeted an image of conflicts in Africa in 2014, and one can't help feeling that there has been a spreading infection. M&G Africa saying bloody November as terrorists kill 200 in 1 month, leaving Africa fearing for Christmas. At least 200 people have been killed around Africa this month, many the victims of brutal attacks that seem designed to send warning signals to beleaguered governments. I wrote about this several times, but not too long ago, when I said the insurgency tail risk remains, then how it plays out will have important consequence for ourselves and the entire Africa Rising narrative. That note, I'll put up an image of the poster, the Africa Rising poster that was put up at the IMF Mozambique conference earlier in the year. Africa Progress tweeted that 20 countries in Africa are amongst the fastest growing, and I'll put up that image. South African all share up 9.66%. Year to date, it's been a volatile couple of months. Dollar Rand back above 11.03. I think we'll see a 12 print in 2015. Egyptian pound remains firm at 714.82. The Egyptian stock market is up 35.004%, but fell 1.27% yesterday. Nigerian all share down 18.035%. And it's had a torrid time as well. It fell only 0.15% yesterday. There was some news out of Nigeria that Diamond Bank announced that Carlyle had invested $147 million in its rights issue. And I wrote a piece over the weekend, Nigeria in the Eye of the Storm. Interesting piece on the World Bank blog. The Niger River Delta, a strategic asset in Africa's Sahel region. The southern fringes of the Sahara Desert host rugged lands where mankind has thrived for more than a millennium. In this vast panorama, the inner Niger Delta stands out in a region where limited rainfall is a fact of life. The delta is a natural dam, an irrigation scheme, whose floodplain creates a grazing and cropping perimeter that at its peak can reach 30,000 square kilometers and sustains about 900,000 people. If the Niger Delta did not exist, it is likely we'd be brainstorming ways to build a man-made structure to do the work the Delta does naturally. On a recent visit to Mali, I was struck by the strategic quality of this natural asset that has so many benefits. Approximately 40% of Mali's livestock migrate to the Delta region. During the scorching dry months, over 2 million cows and 4 million goats and sheep. Freshwater fisheries provide additional food security. It is a regional safety valve, given that livestock from Mauritania and Niger also flock to the Delta. Very interesting geography. Ghana Stock Exchange is up 5.641% year to date. Fell actually 0.79% yesterday, not sure why. Brand Africa 100, the most valued brands in Africa, a very interesting scoring system they've obviously deployed. And MTN came out as the top African brand, Coca-Cola second, Shell third, Samsung fourth, Vodafone 5, and there was no Safaricom, so I suspect Safaricom fell under the Vodafone ticker. Nike 6, 7 Toyota, 8 Woolworths, 9 ShopRite, McDonald's at 10, Nestle came 25th, Heineken 26, Guinness 28, KFC 35, Tusker 48, Mumia Sugar came in at 79, Range Rover 91, Equity Bank 94. Made interesting reading, some of the things I would disagree with. Coming to Kenya, the Al-Shabaab is denying the Kenya reprisal over bus raid. Deputy President William Ruto said on Sunday his country's armed forces carried out a cross-border attack in which they targeted the perpetrators of Saturday's attack, in which 28 bus passengers were killed near the town of Mandera. 2 successful operations in the hideouts of the perpetrators of Mandera executions were swiftly carried out across the border. Our retaliatory action left in its trail more than 100 fatalities, he said. Destroyed 4 technicals and the camp from which this crime was planned. However, the Al-Qaeda-linked group's military operations spokesman Abdi Aziz Abu Musab called Ruto's claim absurd. Our Mujahideen are safe and didn't face any attack whatsoever after the successful operation they carried out by the grace of Allah. Claims like these are only spewed by the Kenyan authorities to cover up their failure to secure the safety of their people, he added. And this is part of the challenge for the government, in that Al-Shabaab rebut, if not in real time, close to real time. And therefore, and I wrote about this during the Westgate time, we're meant to accept a narrative which most of us have seen and don't believe in. Nairobi's booming real estate market, this is Katrina Manson in the FT. You've got to be quick if you're planning to snap up property in Kenya's capital. By the time Edward Burbridge bought a plot of land he'd had his eye on for a while, the price had doubled. Ended up paying $440,000 an acre for a 2-acre plot in Nairobi's leafy Karen suburb in June last year, up from 20 million shillings 18 months previously. Today's prices in some parts of the suburb are already running at between 50 and 80 million an acre. Relative to the rest of Nairobi, it still looks quite good value to me. That was why I was comfortable to do it even at that price, as the 35-year-old, who 3 years ago left a job in the city to set up a boutique investment bank in Nairobi. Prices in Nairobi's residential market reached historic highs in the first quarter of the year, almost 3.5 times higher than in 2000. Since then, growth in the most expensive segment has slowed, in part due to the impact of security fears, following a series of terror attacks, as well as a levelling out in a market that has risen stratospherically in the past decade. Talking about how developers are putting up apartment blocks, an acre in Lavington can go for 150 million. Haskins Consulting prices are only up 7.5% in Karen this year. And then Edward, who rented in the area soon after his arrival in Kenya, his Karen dream was clear. I hated living in London in a little flat. He calculated that the annual rental yield on his property in Parsons Green had fallen below 1% by 2013. Moving here for the same money, you can have a small country house that you can commute to work from, so I sold it. And with the proceeds, we got the 2 acres here and enough money to build a small 3-bedroom house. It is quite a swap. With a view over the Gong Hills, the ridge along the Great Rift Valley, Edward and his Kenyan wife, Nonnie, have stepped into the world made famous by the film Atom Africa about Karen Blixen. The coffee plantations have long gone. A lot of suburbs have changed and gone into this generic look, but Karen has a spirit of its own. Among country clubs, Elephant Orphanage, that marvellous Elephant Orphanage where I took Hannah to not too long ago, Giraffe Sanctuary, some of Kenya's oldest white settler families, often referred to as KCs, have long made their homes in ranches with stables, painted wood cottages, and stone hideaways. Karen used to be 20-acre plots, then it was 5-acre plots, then it was 1-acre plots, and now north of Langata Road it's half-acre plots, said Ben Woodhams, the MD at Knight Frank. Very interesting, talking about security. Drawbacks, as anywhere in Nairobi, include traffic and crime. Unlike some, the couple are not fazed by last year's attack on the upmarket Westgate shopping mall. Woodham says the attacks have depressed the growth in both sales and prices. The couple are more fearful of personal violent crime and conceive everyone in the city, which once went by the moniker Nairobi, knows someone who has been attacked either in their home or car. It's a very interesting article by her. The Kenya shilling is at 90.20. Going back to that, actually, I think the real estate prices, we've got a very soft patch on the coast. But here, after flatlining, I think we'll accelerate higher again. Nairobi all shares up 17.929% year to date, fell 0.56% yesterday. NSE 20 fell 0.4% yesterday. The market is up 4.445%. Coming to the stock exchange yesterday, light trading clocked 299 million. Kenya shilling was pretty stable when you consider weekend events. Williamson Tea and Kachoria Tea reported sharply lower earnings. Turnover was down for Williamson as well. Tea prices have been at multi-year lows. But the point to note is that net asset value of these agricultural companies is way north of the trading price, and that's the arbitrage more and more people are looking at. Kenya Airways has rebounded 9.0322% over the last 2 trading sessions before this morning. That was after a steep sell-off. Uchumi eased back 2.604% to close at 9.35. The positive reaction to some bullish and forthright comments from the CEO Siano beginning to ebb, and in part because I think it's undercapitalized at this moment in time. We'd like to see more money being spent and more aggressive rollout strategy. And without a strategic partner, that's not going to happen. KCB has rallied 6.54% over the last 2 weeks, closed 0.88% higher. Equity Bank lower, 2.08%, has corrected 20.33% since setting a record closing high at the end of September. Mumi has pushed higher, and that's up 46.42% since the 12th of November when it closed at an all-time low. Market, thin market conditions at the moment. If you want to track the tape, just register on rich.co.ke, get a password, and then go to Rich Live, and you can just have it on the background. And if you need to check anything, demand, supply, go to the expert board. If you just want a quick picture of what's happening, just go to the normal board. Once again, thank you for stopping by.